And welcome back to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, he is Steve, and From Software makes it hurt so good in episode 269 today. April. What is today? 14th.
That's got to be the 14th, Russ.
14th, 2022. We are going to be getting right into our topic of the day, which is the Elden Ring impressions. So there's no need to fast forward whatsoever. And this has been something that I've been looking forward to talking about for some time, ever since the game came out. But before we get started, be sure to find a point of grace on that subscribe button and bash in that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single solitary episode of Joygasm, which drops once a week every week. Steve. My goodness, this particular episode has been punted and delayed a number of times.
I was gonna say.
Which, I must say it is actually for the best.
Probably for our benefit. But it is late. Sorry about that.
It is a bit, we are somewhat of a late bloomer when it comes to this. It's insane because when I go onto Reddit and I go to the Elden Ring channel, it is insane. Like, there are people who have already beaten the game. They're already on New Game Plus. They're leveled up like 150 plus. It's just insane. I'm like, where do these people find the time to be able to do what they do? But you know what? There's nothing but respect that I bestow. R-E-S-P-E. All of you who are just like the Elden Ring pros, the elders of the Elden Ring.
The Elden Rung.
Yes.
As in, rung it out.
Oh, I wouldn't. That's a little negative connotation there, Steve.
Sorry about that.
We'll just say that they are very loyal to the game.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it'd be fun to be able to talk about, well, in terms of kicking this off.
Oh.
Talking about like how we came into playing this game. In my case, the first From Software title that I played was Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice.
Sure.
And you have heard the story about that already.
I
about
have.
how like this is the title that like I have never been more violently enraged at ever before. And I've played a lot of games. I've played a lot of games that have been hard and so on and so forth in my gaming career. But that was the one game where like I had never felt my blood pressure boil to that point. And everything was just so constantly intense. You had to be on your A game the whole entire time. And it ended up being my favorite game of the year. And consequently, like, I have just really taken a break, so to speak, from any kind of From Software title. But I was very curious about what other kind of titles that they had made. I was already familiar with the whole like Dark Souls series, which I never played. But then I looked at it, they have like Bloodborne, which also caught my attention. I was like, oh, that's kind of a nice theme, a cool world and stuff, but I ended up not playing it yet. And they had a couple of other titles as well. So it was interesting to me because I had initially just sworn off any future From Software titles because of the sheer intensity that I experienced with Sekiro. Like, I was just like, I'm one and done. Like, that's how I'm going to be, just for my own health. I feel like I was going to have a stroke or a heart attack. And yet here I am, I kept hearing all of these wonderful things about Elden Ring. And so finally I came to you and I just said, I think we're going to need to try this game out because tons of people are playing it. Everybody's loving it. And furthermore, that's kind of where you come in because you've never played a From Software title.
Played jack.
And so, I thought it would be a nice introduction into what the experience is in a From Software title. And so, this has been your first foray. And what's interesting is last night I ended up looking onto the Xbox app since we both have the game for Xbox Series X. So I did a little compare thing on the app and I was thinking, I wonder how many hours Steve has versus how many hours I have. So I look at mine, I was like, well, okay, I've got about roughly 25 hours of gameplay into the game.
Probably have more than that.
Steve, you had, as of last night, and you were online as I was checking. So I knew that you were like playing even longer, but like when I checked, you had somewhere in the vicinity of like 55 hours.
Sounds about right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds about right. But that's also, I think, so you see what happens is there's times where I need to like just step away for a little bit. And if I can find a spot where I'm not going to get killed by the air I breathe, or like if a tree branch doesn't sway too hard and
ant
slaps
starts
me,
to gnaw on your boot.
yeah, like it's just a poisonous ant, and like just the most poisonous ant on earth. Then I can like step away, like get a glass of water or something, and maybe just go outside and like breathe, talk to my wife, and then like, you know, try it again. So like that's 55 hours, like not all, you know, just like consistent.
You just left the game on your TV.
I didn't turn the thing off. Yeah, I didn't turn it off. I'm like, I gotta step away. I really want to go back and play. Like, I'm not done.
He literally has like 25. He has the same amount of time I have playing it, and the rest of like the other 25 to 30 hours is just like idle animations of without while he's getting a breath of fresh air. He's like, okay. Woo.
Just leave the game on as I go to bed. Come back up. I'm ready to play again. Let's go. I don't want to waste the time in turning on the Xbox. I just want to turn on the TV and go.
Exactly. So I want to kick it over to you a bit though, because this is the first time that you are playing a From Software title. What are your first kind of thoughts? What's your experience with it so far? Tell us, Steve.
So here's what I will say. I started off kind of dreading it.
Oh, you know, understandably so. I mean, again, From Software titles are renowned. Like they have a reputation. Oh, yes. Something floating in the
by there.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Anyway, they have a reputation for being some of the hardest titles in the entire gaming industry, right? Like they wear that, both the company and the gamers who are fans of these titles, they wear that as like a badge of honor.
Well, yes. And then other people I've spoken to go, oh, it's going to be great. You're going to die so much. You're going to die so much. I'm like, that does not sound fun. So like, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. I'm not going to love it. So then when I finally did download the game, I literally started playing like after work, after my wife goes to bed. After it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm winding down.
Which is hilarious because like I know what you're getting at, because I've done a lot of the same thing. And this is so a game that you don't want to play right before you go to sleep, because I've had trouble going to sleep. I don't know about you.
Well, no, I haven't, but like at least so that night though, the initial first night, I'm walking through like that first catacomb, I'm trying to read everything. A lot of stuff is not really sticking. I'm like, I'll pick it up as I go, whatever, you know? And so I start walking outside and I'm getting the nods already. Like, and then I hear like this, like, oh, I fell off a cliff, you know? And then I'll get back home. Okay, I got to go somewhere else. There's a big golden tree out there. Maybe I'll walk towards that.
Yeah.
And see where it takes me.
It's big and shiny and looks happy. It looks like a happy tree.
It looks safe over there. And so it's like, just keep walking, and I get the nods again. I wake up, I'm like, just like walking into a tree, like just, you know. So that's where the whole thing punted off, right? So I finally get to some enemies and then die. I'm like, okay, well, try again.
Were they like the soldiers?
Just like the regular first, like the very first enemies.
Yeah, they're like, F you.
Yeah, I think it was like maybe even a deer got mad at me and like just punched me.
Yes,
I don't know.
Even the animals. I mean, have you gotten rammed by some of the rams?
Yes.
I'm just like, what? Even the rams don't want me here.
So anyhow, that night I was not looking forward to doing this review or like this impression, because I'm like, I'm going to bed. Like I'm not happy now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go forward playing this game. So that night passed.
And that was like
like
a month ago. Or
pretty much
3 weeks ago.
At least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So then I tried it the next night, and the next night, and the next night, and the next night. And it's almost like I would inch my way forward to progress. And I guess I'm used to like mobile games, because you have to kind of grind. Yeah, I don't pay jack in these mobile games. And so I just grind and grind and grind. And I'm just kind of used to it. So I thought, you know what? All right, everybody I kill, I'm just going to go to the save point, like make sure I'm healed so that I can go forward for the next one.
Steve's like the anomaly customer that all mobile gaming companies dread. He's like the nightmare that they dread because he will not spend it. I mean, at least my understanding is I don't think you've put any money into your.
No, one game I did. I think it was, I forgot if it was Clash of Clans or Clash Royale. Okay. But they had like this red promotion.
Okay.
And so I think it was like, you know, they give some proceeds to AIDS or something. I forgot what it was. It was years ago. And I thought I put like $5 is all I asked for. I'm like, yeah, I'll throw $5 in there. That's it for years. I just spent $5.
He's played that game. I don't even know how many hours you have into those games. You played it for years, and that's it. So yeah, it's. But you know, it's an admirable trait. Just thinking about how you have that self-control, and you also have that tenacity to actually do the grind.
Right.
Anyway, I don't mean to digress off that, but that's a funny side note.
So, I just found myself getting a bit stronger and a bit stronger and a bit stronger, but I thought I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna assume I'm not gonna get far until I get strong. So the enemies kept respawning every time you go to the grace point.
Yep.
And I just got to a point where I got a bit tired of slaughtering the same enemies. And when you level up, of course, you have to get more and more runes to level up. You can't just go, oh, I got 20. There you go. System, computer, give me some strength. And so then I would push forward or push to the side or push north or push back or, you know, push somewhere where I wouldn't die as much. And so that's really been my experience is just traversing the map and going to places where I won't die as quick. That being said, though, I have no clue what's happening in the story.
Sure.
All I know is I'm a good guy. I'm meeting some other people who happen to be alive.
They're like, how's it going?
Hey, you want to buy something?
You're just like, how do you survive in this environment? I mean, you're like showing up with like, what are those things called? Like you show up in crutches and a cast and like your face is gashed and stuff. Yeah.
Doing okay?
How exactly are you and your horse still alive in this climate?
Like, you just see that thing that was... It's like 5 of me over there. How are you alive?
Yeah, exactly.
Man. So anyhow, so I've been running into, of course, big bosses and tough enemies, and it's taken a long time to annihilate them. But here's what I will say is, and I don't know how this really works. I can take some guesses, but this is like the only game where I get to a point. Actually, I don't get to that point. I want to try again, and I want to try again, and I want to try again. Other games do that. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'll put it down. Like, look, this ain't that fun anymore. I don't, you know, I can name some well-known games where I just put it down because it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the first experience I had where, I mean, I would die, just brutal death.
Yeah.
My character's like screaming, like, man, I feel bad. That must have really hurt.
Yeah.
I'm getting cleaved in two with that big sword.
Yeah. The sword is huge.
He's gonna feel that in the morning.
Yeah.
But I think what it is that I don't know. I think the way they treat you is like, yeah, okay, you're gonna die a lot. Man up or woman up, you know, and just keep going forward and keep pressing and. They don't like mock you when you die.
No.
And you die, if you die, it's like in a magnificent, glorious death.
Oh, I mean, so it's like, there's no question. You're like, I'm dead.
Yeah. It's not like they just flicked you and then you well, sometimes that happens, but anyway, you don't feel like a moron when you die.
Yeah.
And so you feel like you gave it your all.
Yeah.
And you died. And then when they bring you back, I don't know if it's that sound that it makes or him getting up again and just giving it. I don't know what it is. I have no freaking clue what it is. But once I respawn, I'm willing, if not more so willing,
right,
to go forward and try it again and try it again. And so even though I have no idea where I'm going at all,
right,
I want to explore. And I want to do away with all the baddies that wish to do me and anybody else in this map harm.
Sure.
Sort of thing. That's my desire. That's like the ultimate goal right now for the game.
Yeah.
And that's what's like driving me forward. That's what's keeping me up late at night.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's basically where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that is part of the secret sauce that From Software injects into every single one of their titles. It was the same thing for me when I was playing Sekiro, where like I was saying earlier, I would be so pissed. I would be so enraged. I'd be so mad. But it wasn't one of those types of experiences where I would want to just all of a sudden just pitch the game and be like, this is garbage. Like I had the same exact type of response that you did, which is like, I want to give it another shot. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it again. And that was when I learned about kind of the popular phrase, get good, which really spawned a lot from the From Software titles. And for whatever reason, they have perfected that formula where like they will just punish you. They will beat you to a pulp. Like you will just be so mercilessly destroyed, yet you want to go back and try it again. And I think that is... It's a hard thing to do because, like, to your point, I mean, there are plenty of games out there that maybe are hard or whatever, but like it doesn't have that like desire instilled in you to want to like give it another shot and give it another shot.
Yeah, I just wonder what they do. I wonder how they must have talked about it or decided something's got to look a certain way or sound a certain way to create that emotion or that emotional response.
Right.
That to pick yourself up, dust off your boots, and keep going.
What is interesting to me is how they rinse and repeat a lot of the combat gameplay mechanics with the games, at least the games that I've played. I assume it just gets pushed into their other games as well. But you have these intense boss encounters, and you will have these instances where you just die and try again, that sort of thing. And, one of the key differences between Sekiro versus Elden Ring that I've personally noticed is that in Sekiro, they had I think if I remember correctly, it was called like a posture meter that existed at the top center of the screen, because the idea was that you wanted to be able to parry and block your enemy strikes to the point where they lose their posture. And then you could really go in for like a killer blow or a critical hit. And I remember even like at the last boss that I was fighting, I mean, it was just, there was no room for error. Like if you messed up, like he would just take out most, if not all of your life. And I remember having that sense of accomplishment when I finally was able to beat that particular end boss within Sekiro. I mean, I was floored. I could not believe it. And I remember the time I actually did it, it was like, the end boss barely got in a hit. I don't know, he probably hit me once or twice or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but there was such a sense of achievement with that. And in Elden Ring, they actually don't have that. And what's interesting is that I've noticed in Elden Ring, because it has more of an open world type of setup, is it has kind of like this peaks and valleys situation where like you'll be in combat and the combat's really intense. But then there's also moments where like I'm on my horse, I'm on Torrent, and I'm just riding around, I'm exploring and discovering new parts of the world and stuff, and it's a lot more easygoing, low key. I can choose more like if I want to engage baddies or not, just take evasive action and that sort of thing, which you could take evasive action to a point within Sekiro, but I mean, the world wasn't open like this. And also, like, they really wanted you to, I mean, it's like the whole ninja samurai engagement kind of thing, right? So they did have little tweaks and differences and that sort of thing. But in this game, you're absolutely having to go out there, figure out how to survive. And then what's crazy is that as you go along, once you've like leveled up to a certain point or you've gotten used to certain enemy types, what once was like this daunting, horrific, scary adversary suddenly is no longer that scary or that. It's the weirdest thing. It's like they have this side to the game where like they desensitize you. It's like when you first come across certain types of enemies, you're just like, you're almost kind of petrified because of the grotesque, huge, like just threat that stands before you, this menacing thing. And then like by the time you've died about 100,000 times, then suddenly you look up and you're like, you want some? Come on and get it, and it's kind of a nice side effect.
It is. Until you die and not recover your runes.
Yes, that could be quite frustrating. And that is also another signature of From Software's new.
I lost like 50,000 runes once.
Oh boy.
That was the end of that night.
You decided to turn the power off on that?
Yeah, I was. It was like towards the second boss. You're kind of making your way through the castle. It's like right after, actually, I think you kill the first boss. And the first boss, as far as like the story is concerned, the first boss with the cutscene.
You're talking about the gatekeeper to the castle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going through the castle at that point, but it's early on, like you're making your way up the side steps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point after that, I died. Like right when you go in the dark room, and there's that soldier that's there, and you're just like, "Hey, what's up?" Stab. And then so I'm like, "Oh no, I can," because I had so many runes because I just defeated that boss. Why did I not level up? Don't know.
But you learn your lesson, don't you?
So I'm going up the steps. I'm like, yeah, I'll kill those. There's only 3 guys. They were like ganged up on me. Yeah. And like they got me into a corner. I'm like, no. Roll. Get out of there. And then they just killed me. I'm like, 50,000 runes.
Yeah.
They're gone. I'm going to bed.
I had a similar situation. It wasn't as many as 50,000. I had 15,000.
Yeah.
But that was toward the beginning of my playthrough. And I felt like, I was like, wow, I'm amassing a fair amount, and again, being new to the game, I have no idea like how many you can amass or what, I'm just getting my bearings, so to speak. And so I was just heartbroken when I lost those 15,000 because I could have applied it. And I went back onto that Reddit page and I was like airing my grievances. And like, the Elden Ring community on Reddit is super supportive and nice. And they're like, oh, dude, don't even worry about it. Like, just wait, like 15,000 is nothing. Like the further you get into the game, like he's like, you're going to be losing like 100,000 on the regular. And it's just whatever. Like you got to like not pay attention to that so much. Just play the game and enjoy it. You will actually have a whole lot more fun if you do so. So I was like, okay, thanks guys. Thanks. Yeah. I licked my wounds,
nice.
And got back to it. So
I would have to say I think I have to be around 20,000 runes right now.
Currently?
Yeah.
That's great. Because like, I mean, at least where I am in the game, I'm not at a point where I can easily gain like rune after rune after rune. I mean, like I'm kind of in the area where like, I'll get like 3,000 to 5,000 or whatever, and then I'm actually really good at going around the world and collecting the actual runes themselves. I'll see them on the grave sites, whatever. I'm like, ooh, I'll take that. You're not going to miss that because you did. So
you don't care about this anymore. Roll.
I do feel kind of dirty though. Like you go like to the gravesite and you're like taking it. You're like,
I'm just gonna take this.
Is anybody watching me do this? Exactly what's happening.
Yeah, it's a good looking rune.
So,
but you get some golden runes and you use them as consumables.
Correct.
I did not know that in the beginning.
I didn't either.
And so I was collecting them. I'm like, what do I do with all this crap? Like my inventory, I know nothing about. Like I have weapons. I know what those do.
Yeah.
I have armor, most of which I can't equip. I know what that does.
Mm-hmm.
I've crafted nothing.
Right.
And all these consumables, all these like recipes. No clue, Russ.
No clue.
No clue.
No clue. You are not alone. I'm in the same boat. I too have not crafted anything. I'm still in that learning process regarding the inventory. And I think it's worth talking about since you brought it up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I would say that the inventory UI is actually one of the weak points of the game where I'm looking at it. First of all, it reminds me somewhat, just the way it looks, how it interacts, everything else. It reminds me of Soul Calibur 6. Because I was going through the UI for that game, which is also from Namco, and you can tell, I don't know if it's the same UI designer or if they have kind of a template that they use or whatever, but like there are certain types of familiarities between the two. But seeing as how this game is essentially like an action RPG, it is a little bit frustrating to have to navigate through the UI. I feel like there needs to be another iteration to it to like kind of clean things up a bit because there's just so much on screen. Like when you activate either your inventory or your equipment or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with like this section and this section, but I don't know what this is or that or whatever, and eventually I'm going to understand it. But I just feel like with the sheer amount of information that they're displaying. I feel like they could have done a more thoughtful job with how they organize everything.
Yeah, I would say, well, I don't know about organizing, but I would say describing or instructing on what to do with it, because that's partly why I just don't touch it, because I don't want to like lose something or use it at the wrong time and then like, oh no, you were supposed to use like much later in the game and now you don't have, I'm like, nuts. But I don't know. And or like something like the Ashes of War. I mean, I guess like I didn't know if I could just use it on one weapon. So I'm like, okay, my weapon is weak. Is this a one-time thing? Am I going to get more later? I mean, so now I know.
Well, actually, so maybe you can educate me on this, because I share the same concern where I really don't have a firm grasp on the Ashes of War, because I look at certain things that I've collected where it's like, oh, you can apply this to your weapon.
Right.
But then I saw something in the instructions about how like once you use it, you lose it, or you can't apply another thing to the weapon or something along those lines, where like there is a certain consequence that will get triggered if you decide you want to apply, say, this Ash of War or whatever to your weapon. Do you have more clarity than me on that?
Slightly. I mean, you can apply an Ash of War to a weapon or your shield, as far as I know, but it's only like one, I think.
Well, they have like that little slot next to the slot that shows what weapon you currently have equipped.
Right.
So I get that. I'm just wondering, is it like once you apply something to that slot, you can never swap it out, or maybe you can swap it out,
right?
But then once you swap it out, does that mean that older Ash of War now just kind of disappears, or does it go back in your inventory?
What my understanding is, it goes back in your inventory. So you can
cool.
swap them out for different weapons. But like sometimes, like I got this barricade shield, and I didn't have to do anything with it. Like I got it, and then all of a sudden it was just equipped and I had it. So I never had to do anything.
Oh, weird.
And so I'm like, okay, so how I have to equip some things and not others, but there was no instruction of what to really do. So I don't know. I can't read these. Part of the reason I can't craft is because I can't even open up the craft. But I have the pot.
Yeah.
I bought like the crafting kit, and I have like tons of flowery things and mushrooms and like fruit or whatever it is. Like, I can't, okay, what do I do with it?
Right.
You'll find out soon enough. Okay, how soon? I'm 55 hours in. Where am I going to find out? And I mean, it took me forever. Like it explained torrent in the very beginning, of course, and I must have read it too fast or something, and then I missed it. And so I thought, okay, so to use my horse, I have to basically pause the game, go into my inventory, arrow over to where that ring is, click it, and then I get my horse. That seems kind of excessive. I wish there was just a quicker way, and I just stumbled on it. Oh, I just kind of link it over this way. What if I could just like 2-button it now? I'm like, oh, that works. That's how everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
But because I missed it and there was no instructions, like, sorry about that. You'll pick it up maybe sometime.
Well, and I also think too, and as a suggestion to what it is that you're describing, I kind of wish that the whole pouch mechanism that they have, first of all, I think it's cool. I like the idea. The concept is cool. My suggestion would be, though, that you would just automatically apply like the ring that you use to beckon torrent to come up whenever you need to. Just automatically assign it to the pouch. Don't have us have to manually go in and figure that out. And especially because the pouch has, I think, like 4 different slots at least, if not more.
Right.
But the idea being that like maybe like there could be an automated process where like different items that work with the pouch just automatically get put into one of those slots and then, if you try to access it, there would be instructions, or maybe like you get another item that can't fit in there. And at that point, then all of a sudden, like there's a tutorial, like how to swap out stuff or whatever. But I just feel like there should have been more of a automated process with these different items, because I'm with you. Like when I first got it, I'm like, how on earth do I use it? How do I equip it? There just wasn't a way to like inform me in an expeditious way.
Right. I would have to branch off that though too and say, if there was just a way to pause the game,
yes,
without going to a grace point, like, I
think technically you can pause it if you go to the map.
No.
You still get hit.
Yeah. Yeah, Russ.
Why do I get the feeling you've had this personal experience?
So I'm like, oh, well, I mean, so because I would go to the inventory, I'm like, I can still see myself moving around.
Yeah.
That must mean I can get hit. And all of a sudden,
well, that's the inventory screen, though. What about the map?
I know. So I thought, okay, well, I can't pause it that way. I'll go to the map. I mean, I can't see the enemies at that point. I can't move, so that must mean they can't see me.
Yeah. Clearly, if I have a map in front of my face, they can't see me.
Yeah, right. I'm in. So
you look at me like,
Yeah.
I've got the map up. You have to wait your turn.
Unfold it. Yeah. Can't see me. This paper thin thing right here is a shield.
That'd be so funny if that actually worked in real life. You're just like, I'm going to keep staring at this map.
Man.
You can't do a thing about it.
The wolves are sitting there. Okay, he's going to put that map down.
Yeah. Any day now.
So I was like, okay, where am I? Where do I want to go? Okay. All right here. Maybe I'll go south a bit, cross the bridge.
That was my arm, wasn't it?
Back to the grace point. Like, okay, so.
Why do I feel 30 pounds lighter all of a sudden?
Man. Yeah. Anybody seen my arm?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. No offense. Here's the other arm.
Just merely a flesh wound.
I'm not trying to hurt anybody. Gosh. So, anyhow, I'm like, I can't pause the game. So I'm playing. I'm like, I just want to get a drink of water. Or I need to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Where's a grace point? And I didn't know at the time that I could just like go to a fast travel to a grace point. But sometimes if an enemy's around, I can't just like pause it, and you can't fast travel if an enemy's around. You have to wait till there's nobody there, and then you can fast travel.
Right.
But sometimes if they're chasing, you just can't just like set the thing down. Or you have to leave where you're at. So if you've progressed down a long way and there is no grace point near you,
right,
to pause the game, you have to go all the way back to like another grace point. And granted, there's a lot of them spread throughout the map, but you got to find them. Mm-hmm. And there's been times where I'm wandering around like, man, if I die,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back to the beginning of the game.
Which honestly, I like. I like that about the game because it creates tension. Like, you're not supposed to be in like the safe space of a world. I think it's really neat that they, like, to give you an idea, I was in the castle area, you know, I was beyond the gate, I was in the castle, and I had traveled a fair amount of way away from my last point of grace I had, and I had spent all of my healing potions and my FP potion, and like even, you know, my little I'm the confessor class, so I have some healing magic I can do. I've spent all of that. I mean, my health was like 1/3 of the entire bar, and so it caused me to really, you know, just kind of like put my head on the swivel, and I was doing the whole like Sam Fisher Splinter Cell like crouch walk, and I'm going around, you don't see me. And luckily I was able to kind of get around some of
the AC ducts.
Yeah.
I am.
You're in the, what was it, Limgrave? Is that how you pronounce it? You got your like night vision goggles. Oh, it's on now. So no, but like, and I actually eventually I did find it, and there's such a sense of relief when you stumble across a new point of grace. You're like, oh, there it is, and then you're just praying that no one leaps out and takes you out as you're about 20 yards away from the point of grace closing in.
And that's the thing too. Even if you're at the point of grace,
yeah, you
you still can die. You have to like literally be sitting, resting at the point of grace. And then, because there's a time, the golden knight, like in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
I was taunting
on the
him,
horse.
On the horse. I'm taunting him like, and I run over to the church. I'm like, I'm at the grace point. He's like, and he's like bust through the church. He goes, well, I guess that doesn't work.
Note to self: do not taunt ginormously huge golden warriors on a big freaking horse.
Don't taunt people with bigger weapons larger than your body.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just gets, so, I mean, yeah, you make a point. The world ain't safe. I got it. But like,
I mean, think of like Resident Evil.
Right. But Resident Evil has like, yes, you can pause it.
No, I'm not talking about the pods because I totally agree. I think that needs to be fixed. I think that would actually be a pretty easy fix From Software to implement into that. And there have been a lot of people who've echoed the same sentiment. I'm simply talking about how I draw comparisons to watching you, or if I'm playing myself a Resident Evil title, how like there are times where you're going into uncharted territory, you have no idea where the next typewriter room is, and your health's low, your ammo's low, and you're like, I need to find a safe point, I don't want to die. And then you finally, you see it, and you're like, oh, thank God. And you once again, you have that exhale, you have that relief. So it's nice that Elden Ring has that as well. And honestly, I mean, Sekiro had their own version of that. So I do want to pivot from this and just get like the obvious out of the way, which is the fact that the game is gorgeous. Like,
this is true, Russ.
This is one of those games that definitely shows off the next gen experience, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion. It doesn't matter where I'm going. I mean, from the moment that I get introduced to this open world and you see the splendor of everything and the draw distance, and you know, you're going around, if you're in a swamp or if you're in the castle towers or you're in like some grave site or, you know, the meadows or whatever. I mean, like the game is so beautiful. Like there are so many times where I've just stopped and just looked around in admiration, really. I mean, have you had that experience?
I have in certain places, and other places, no. So like when you first get to Limgrave, it's not that pretty. I mean, there's a distance you can see up. You're like, man, it's kind of foggy and eerie sort of thing. And it's like that throughout most of the beginning experience. And then once you get kind of past that castle, like the sun comes out and like, oh, like warm sunlight. And then like the greens start getting greener and the sky gets bluer. I'm like, oh, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so it has those times where it can get really pretty. Other times it is pretty dreary.
But I mean, even the dreary aspects of it too, I feel like have, when I say beautiful and gorgeous too, it's not just the things that are literally beautiful and gorgeous, but like the sheer artistry that has gone into each and every type of like prop and environmental asset. I mean, you look at those things and they have a tremendous amount of detail,
right?
Even if they're nasty and depressing and soggy and whatever else, right?
Yeah. I will say too, though, even when they're soggy and depressing, when you're at there's certain grace points with that glow, and no matter how terrible it looks outside, that glow is so warm.
It's so inviting.
It is. And it very nice contrast with everything else outside the little campfire area, you know?
But I mean, so cheery.
This is my world right here.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave it.
Safe place.
Oh boy.
Or better yet, safe space.
Safe space, yeah.
I found a happy place.
So what I will say on top of the environments though, are all of the enemies, Russ. All of your foes, I would say, are better than the environments, because you look at them and you have like this sense of wonder and amazement of like the different armor and the colors and their attacks and the amount of cloth and clothing that moves when they swing or jump. And like you're afraid and you're excited at the same time to face another enemy, because like, you look amazing. I wish I looked like you. Like, no.
Absolutely terrified, but at the same time, you look amazing.
Who designed your costume? I want the same thing. Can I pillage your corpse when I'm done?
And you're farther along than I am. I mean, like, I think you have, you've gotten past the castle. You sounded like you were making your way north beyond the castle. I'm not beyond the castle. I'm still in the castle. I'm still traversing. Like, did you spend time on the actual rooftops of the castle towers? You can actually scale those and like inch your way, like making
don't fall.
Yeah, exactly. And there are like little treasures and
there's
swag and loot to be found.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't just window dressing. I'm glad like you actually can interact with that.
Yeah. You can fall down to secret places and almost die in the process.
You fall, like break both your legs, your bones are protruding out of your kneecaps. You're like, wait. I'm right is right.
It's like the same ointment as from Resident Evil 8. They're like, I'm just sitting there. Like,
no, the chem fluid.
Yeah, the chem fluids, yeah.
Nothing, it's fine.
Right as rain. Oh, man. Oh, boy. So, yeah, I wish I took a picture of the map. I'll look at my phone in a second. But I don't know how big the map is, but I have traversed.
Dude, it's huge.
A lot. Yeah. I mean,
have you gone south at all?
Yes, I've gone about as far south as I can go because after that there's just ocean drop off and you can't swim.
Okay, so you have traversed all the way down as far south as you get. Like, there's a castle down there as well.
It's a small castle.
Yeah, and then there's other stuff too that I haven't even like really looked at. I got to the castle, then I got curious. I was like, ooh, what's in here? And
yeah.
So you've gone as far down, and now you're going north.
Yes. So and the enemies over there are not that difficult. They're kind of sort of like the enemies in Limgrave. They're not too much different.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, I can at least get some experience and travel down there and see, what's going on. And so I get there, you meet some more enemies. They're not that much stronger. There is a boss, but he was surprisingly easy.
In that castle?
Yeah.
Oh.
You actually have to, he's not in the castle. You get to the castle, then you drop off like one of the back walls. And then you can there's a little land area, then you keep on kind of control falling down.
Oh, weird.
And then you get all the way, like there's a drawbridge like to nothing. And then you just, climb the ladder down and then you're basically on like the moat, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
And right near there's an area, small little like mother-in-law castle. It's very small.
Mother-in-law. It's like one of those like extensions you put on your house.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, like the yellow fog or the colored fog is right there that you have to go through. And so then I just meet a bad guy. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He goes, hey, how you doing? And I was like, I don't
but
like
you said he actually wasn't that as hard as some of the others.
Well, I only died like 3 times.
Well, that is surprising just because I recall when I first took the elevator up and you see like those weird demon-looking creatures with the wings and stuff. They're so aggressive.
They are.
And like I haven't been able to get past them. Like I would like whittle them down to like 2 left or something, and then they would just off me. So
you know what's worse though, Russ? It's not the demon-looking. I know the ones you're talking about.
Yeah.
But in the castle you're at,
yes,
the winged like eagle-looking creatures are even worse because they have like those long, sharp talons.
Yeah.
They dive bomb you and slice you, and I can't stand those.
I have like on rare occasion I struggle with them, but for the most part I actually do okay. And I think it's due to 2 different factors. One of them being that I have this like fireball spell. I don't know if you have it or not, but
I have no spells.
You have no spells.
I just have ashes.
Well, okay, so you're the vagabond class, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm the confessor class. So it's kind of like a hybrid between the vagabond and like a, I guess, arcane class, something like that. So I do have certain options to be able to wield some of this stuff. So when I use the fireballs, I can actually hit them with pretty decent accuracy. And then the other thing is that I've recently come into possession of this one particular sword. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's like this super long sword. Like it almost is like the length of a javelin, but it's not a javelin because I have the javelin as well.
I think I know it's called like the epi
yeah,
or something. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
So highly useful against those birds with like the blades on their talons and stuff as they go around because that thing is so long. I mean, essentially I just take a defensive position and then as they come in, I let them do like their initial strike. And then you know how you can do the counterattack with the right trigger. Like you do a successful block, hit right trigger immediately, and then it has that ching, and then you go forward and you hit them. Those birds don't last very long against that particular weapon. So I've been having some pretty good luck with that. And even like the ones that are on steroids where it's like they have both the blades and some kind of flamethrower apparatus on their head. I'm just like, what the heck is this? So
Dr. Evil made those things.
I do think it's appropriate to be able to bring up this particular YouTube cartoon that we have seen.
Yes.
And
very well made.
I want to make sure I give proper credit. I have it queued up here. I just want to take a look
just
at
put the link in the description.
I will indeed, Steve. But yes, Carbot animations. I had no idea even existed prior to stumbling upon this particular animation, but it was one of those instances where I was feeling so frustrated because, again, it's like, welcome back to the party, a-hole, you know, and like, you know, I was just beat down so much. I'm like, golly, man, why did I get back? I promised myself after Sekiro I wouldn't do this. And I was reminded once more about how even during Sekiro, like there were moments where I was so mad, I was so upset. But what was cathartic, what actually helped me through it, was you go on YouTube and there are tons of gamers out there that are having the same experiences that I am, and they document it on there. And I mean, some of it is just so funny because I can relate. It's like a relatable kind of anger kind of thing where like you start laughing and you hear these people raging because like they just don't understand why they can't defeat like a certain enemy or whatever. And it generates a sense of community unto itself. And I think that's part of like kind of the From Software community, right? Is like everybody kind of bands together and has these water cooler moments of like how badly they got their butts kicked or whatever. And, you know, that was the case with Sekiro. And once again, it was the case with Elden Ring. And so there is this one animation in particular that he has done called So I Tried Elden Ring. And again, it's if you go on YouTube, just look for Carbot animations. It is hysterical. It is so funny. Right. I feel like this guy, he's this really talented animator. He has this gift of being able to like pull out the very like key types of situations or moments, and it's just hilarious to watch because like I said, I feel like he really, I don't know, he hit the nail on the head. What do you think?
No, it was hilarious.
I've watched it like 10 times.
Yeah, I know, I've seen it. I'm looking at it. I saw that at work. I'm like, how am I gonna do this? Like, there's gotta be some way to, I'm like looking at online stuff. I'm like, these people are so far like where I am. Like there's no strategy for where I am right now. And so I stumbled on it. Probably when my phone goes, oh, you're talking about Elden Ring a lot. We'll send you something, you know. So that dawned on my phone. I'm like, I played Elden Ring.
It's like the one time your phone takes pity on you as it eavesdrops and spies on you.
Right, exactly. So I watched that and that was so hilarious. I sent it out to some friends. It was, he did a great job. And apparently we're not the only people to know about it because he's had like quite a few million views.
Absolutely. And there have been various types of well-known websites that have also featured it and picked it up, that sort of thing. And I will say too, I started looking through, just a little bit. I still need to go through like his entire catalog, but I was looking through some of his Overwatch stuff and I found one that just, again, it just hits the nail on the head, which was Torbjorn.
Right.
And how like, you play as Torbjorn quite a bit when we play Overwatch, and how one of the running gags is how you'll get play of the game a lot, but like the actual like replay is so like anticlimactic. Like it's like it shows you just dying and then like your turret's just taking everybody out and you're just like, whoa, what is going on? And so he made an animation of that as well, which is just, I mean, it's so funny. Like his animations are just so good. And even like the sound effects, like, I mean, like you hear Torbjorn, I think like he got like an arrow through the eye or something, and you hear him go, oh, it just goes plop. This is so funny. So anyway, kudos to the guy who puts that together, because that's just brilliant as far as I'm concerned.
It's funny.
It is funny. It's
really funny. You know, I have a suggestion they make on the game though too, Russ, is so something I've noticed, I was talking with a friend of mine. He was like, that's on purpose. I'm like, no, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it could definitely be better, which is the amount of like, I don't know what you would know the name of it, but I want to say it's polygon breakup or polygon bleed through, where like if I'm walking towards a wall and maybe my weapon is big, my weapon goes through the wall, like through the brick wall, through the stone.
Yeah.
Except it's not mine that doesn't, because it won't work that way. The enemies will. And so I'll have this big, like, thudding, massive skyscraper enemy coming my way. And I'm like, I'm just going to run away. You can't catch me. And then I'll run through a corridor. I'm like, you're too small. And he'll just kind of go like through the brick
Really?
and through the wood. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm in a small cave. How, like you're 3 stories high. How can you? And it just looks. And I've heard that's on purpose because like the writers of the game don't want you running.
They want you fighting.
They want you fighting.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well I get that, but like program more moves in there, you know, that he can like reach in, like grab you if you're hiding someplace. I just banged the table.
That's okay.
That was my funny bone.
Feel a little static on the fingertips. I have the power.
So like I was transported to like this area, the way top of the map. Actually, I took a picture of it here, Russ. And I forgot. See right there where the round table is.
Yes.
And then you look all the way up. Well, I have the picture.
Yeah, you really teleported up to the top, didn't you?
All the way to the top, right?
You're
And
not supposed to be. I'll bet you that's probably like close to the end game. I bet like you. Did you see stuff where like did you like insta die?
For a long time, yes, I
Yeah.
did. And I finally bested him, but there was like this big 10-man looking giant, and he's laying there just
Taking a
doing
nap.
nothing, taking a nap. And he gets up and he's got an axe. And there were times where he would swing the axe. And I'm like, yes, dodge. And then he would get on all fours and go, oh, like get an extra reach. And I'm like, oh no. And he would like reach all the way across the little battle area.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, okay, well, so he can do that. But then when I'm kind of in a nook somewhere and like the axe goes like right past like the hair on my on my beard sticking out, he'll just bleed through the wall and then just kill me anyway.
I haven't noticed too much of that. I've seen it a little bit, like in the castle area, for instance. There are those knights that are kind of walking around guarding, and there will be moments where like they're too big, like they can't fit through like a specific door type. Other doors they do, they will chase you down.
Right.
But there are other instances where the door is just too small, or they just don't have proper routing algorithms designed for the NPC. So like they're designed to stay within that space, but they will if they do like a swing, like their weapon may halfway cut through the walls, and that's kind of a collision detection issue.
Or sometimes too, like I'll whittle an enemy down and then he'll fall for a second, like to catch his breath, he'll leave himself vulnerable.
That's what you call stagger.
Or he'll become staggered. And then I'll go try and take advantage of that, but then like he'll bleed through the ground. So like his weak spot is to the ground, like and that doesn't happen often.
Yeah,
let me put that out
rare.
there. That doesn't happen very often, but it happens just enough where I'm like,
You notice it.
yeah, I noticed it. Or this lasted a couple nights ago. I was facing that white dragon, Agheel, like something like that. He's in Limgrave. He's in the little water area in Limgrave.
The white dragon in Limgrave?
Yeah.
You're talking about the one in the swamp?
Well, it's not really it's not really a swamp. I mean, it's just kind of like a little water area. It's water, not swamp water.
But you're talking about like kind of in the initial area of the map.
Yeah.
Like the one that flies in, like scares the pants, scares the armor off you. Yeah. Well, he's kind of a grayish color. He's not white.
Well, or off. Yeah, I was pretty.
I thought he was kind of like a weird, like tan gray.
He wasn't. He was probably like a faded white. I don't know about gray, but anyway. So at some point he flies up.
Gosh, that's so epic and so terrifying. You're just like,
and the fire looks amazing too.
Yes.
Like, I died by the fire, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, I understand how I died, but man, that was wow, that was so well done. Anyway, so he flies up and he lands back up on that hill, and that's basically where that other church is, where that first merchant would be. And where that golden knight is riding.
Yeah.
And so I thought, hey, I'm going to get the golden knight to chase me. The dragon's going to chase me. They're going to hit each other, and I'm going to come out on top.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the dragon just goes and just fizzles away and then refizzles.
I've seen that. Yeah. Not with a dragon though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the game designers have figured that out.
I beat that golden knight, by the way, Russ.
So did I.
Did you?
I did. The one on the horse.
Oh, yeah.
It took me, about 15,564 tries, but I did. What was really funny was there was one moment I didn't beat him this particular round, but we got into this mode where I was on torrent and like the horses were kind of like this. And so I was constantly turning into him because I wanted to be close to him, because one of his strengths really is the reach that he has with his weapon. So we were literally doing ring around the rosy with the horses. And I was able to like, just whittle away like on the hindquarters of the horse. And I found myself laughing because it kept going and going. It was round and round and round. And I'm just praying. I'm like, please just keep it. Like, if I could just keep this going. And it was a total cheese move, but like, if I could just keep it going, I could actually beat him. I got his health down to like that much. And then I think I staggered him. And then I made the mistake of getting too excited, and I changed positions and wanted to try and do like the finishing blow in front. I should have just stayed where I was. It was my fault. And he totally took me out, and I was just like, no. But having said that, though, it was one of those memorable moments that was so funny. Like, just, it's when the whole combat mechanics can get a little funny and goofy, and you're just like, I don't care. This is great. You're doing your thing. But yeah, eventually I was able to take him out.
I have found it's not good to be on your horse with the other horse dudes. Well, I mean, it might be for some. For me, it's not.
You mentioned that, and I had the opposite experience where I've actually had more luck being on my horse against other foes on their horses.
But it could be because of my weapon choice. What are you using as your weapon? What's your fave?
Well, for the most part, I've been using like I think it's a mace. It's like basically like a spiked ball at the end of like this big, not a huge rod, but I mean, it's a medium-sized rod.
Is it a flail or is it a morning star?
I want to say it was the morning star because there's no chain attached to the ball. The ball is like on the pole itself. So I mean, so I've been using that for the most part up until recently. Like I was saying, like I have the. What you said it was like that long
Epsi
sword
or something,
Este or what's it? Epi?
Yeah, Russ. Yeah, that one.
I'm still learning.
Sounds about right.
The names of it, but that also was helpful just because it acted, kind of similar to a javelin.
My favorite is the halberd.
I don't know if I've got that one yet.
That was like one of the first weapons I got in Limgrave.
Oh.
And so I used that because I wanted extra reach between me and the other enemy. I didn't want to like get all the fisticuffs and like clankety clanking with the swords. I wanted some distance. And so when he thrusts the halberd, it will stagger a lot of enemies off very, very quick.
Yeah.
And when you're approaching a knight on a horse, he has that kind of an arc, right? Because he's not on your level on the ground, so he's not swinging at your level, and so it's easier to dodge. And then I just go back to hitting the horse, and eventually he gets knocked off the horse.
Yeah,
and then he's laying there on the ground, and you can knock off a couple more hits that way, and then it's pretty much your game at that point.
I did recently take out the one knight that appears at night.
Yes,
on the bridge. And then again, this is in the kind of the original area that you start out in, but there's that bridge that leads up to the castle gate, and he appears at night, and it takes a while, at least in my experience, to take him out, but I finally did. So I felt really accomplished with that.
The first castle?
Yeah.
I don't think
it's south of the first castle. So like you're in kind of like the general vicinity of like, like where the Golden Knight on his horse is. It's kind of like northwest from there. Have you not encountered this one yet, Steve?
I don't believe I have. Mm-hmm. I've encountered the one all the way to like the south. That was the first one I got.
I saw that one once.
That guy's awesome. And then I beat a guy. I found one in the red area.
Okay.
Wherever that place is called. I forgot the name of it.
Are you talking about to the east?
Yes. Well, I mean, all the ground is like kind of tan and green. This area is like red. But yes, it's on the right side of the map.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to not see it. So I got that one. And then recently I got one to like the northwest.
Yeah, see, you've played this game a whole lot more. I mean, you've encountered way more enemies and gotten farther than I have, which is great. I mean, I'm happy for you. I think it's fantastic that you're clearly. I mean, it sounds to me like you're clearly enjoying the game.
Yeah, I'll say so.
55 hours. I mean, that's not bad at all. I mean, and you're sticking with it and everything else.
Thanks.
I do want to comment on how magical the open world is, because I feel like this is one of the stars of the show. You can tell that, like, and this is, no secret. I think that other folks have been talking about this as well, but like there is a nod to Zelda Breath of the Wild in terms of when they released that game, and it was kind of one of the first attempts at open world that was successful. And one of the key ingredients to that formula was how you have to have points of interest within the open world itself, because they're intentionally keeping the HUD at a minimum. They don't want to like tell you too much stuff, and they want to encourage you to actually do this whole search and discovery experience. Well, how do you do that? How do you get the gamer to be curious and go, oh, I wonder what's over that ridge. Oh, I see a fire going over there. I wonder what's happening at that location. And I feel like both Breath of the Wild and with Elden Ring, they have succeeded in that, where, I mean, you're blissfully immersed in this world, and the story is not readily, available to tell you and that sort of thing, at least the amount that we've been playing so far. But I find that to be okay, because I'm literally kind of crafting and creating my own story based on the experiences that I've had. And I think that there's a huge part of that has to do with how meticulous they have been with the layout of this world. I mean, this world is ginormous. It's huge. But at the same time, it's like, I never feel like overwhelmed necessarily. Like I'll feel kind of like wide-eyed, whereas like if I'm going to a new location, I'm like, I've never been here before. What is this about? But that's a good thing. Like that's a great thing, because I'm all excited. I want to see like what's around the corner and that sort of thing. And I feel like that is a strong testament to like what the open world experience is versus something that is more of a linear path. And I think that, certain other games like Resident Evil, for instance, like the Resident Evil Village, it's not open world, but they've definitely made it more open than previous installments of Resident Evil. And especially in the sense that you can like revisit certain areas and like they do lock off certain parts until you've gotten the special key or whatever. And then you unlock more. And that, that's kind of traditional when it comes to that game.
The hexagon, the key, the circle, the tri-circle color key. I'm like, oh, why can't I just get one from Home Depot and just lock it?
Yeah. The unicorn licking Medusa's head. Oh, I got it.
Like, whoa, who thought of this one? Yeah. I'm gonna put that on my keychain.
Anyway, I do think that is one of the stars of Elden Ring, is in fact how they've been so successful in implementing this open world. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. I mean, I think it all goes back to partly the open world, but partly also the story. I mean, there's, from what I understand, that there's quest lines that you follow, but your character yourself doesn't have a story. So there's a fundamental story that's in the background, and then you follow different quest lines that will reach, kind of, I guess, a different ending of the backdrop story.
They have multiple. I've heard that they have multiple endings in this game.
Yeah. But I can appreciate the open world, but at some point I want some more direction. I just don't want to kind of wander around aimlessly throughout the rest of the world. I want to know where to go without having to look up on YouTube, or Reddit or Google. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, okay, I know, I mean, at some point I have to get to the next spot on the map. And some of these spots are blocked off too. You can't get there unless you find the key or the right glimmer stone or something like, I don't know. And so they do some of that. I don't know. I would just like a little bit more guidance, I would say. So I appreciate the open world, but maybe it's a little bit too much. Maybe if they backed off a little bit and said, okay, here are some suggestions or hints on like the direction you should go. For example, you talk to an NPC in the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. He just gives you like some one-liners. Oh, you're maidenless. Yeah, you got to go find Godric. Yeah, I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I guess I'll just wander around a bit.
Yeah.
Godric! And then I wound up at the castle, and then he was there, or he was after the castle. He's like, you made it. I'm like, oh, that's the guy from the beginning. Okay. And then afterwards you meet up with somebody else and you talk to somebody at the round table, but it's all like I'm finding it in error or I'm stumbling on it. And so while I am having a good time, I would have a better time if I knew like what to do.
Yeah, I think the story is to a certain degree intentionally vague. There is kind of a nebulous trait that I too have been noticing. And I think when it comes to the open world, like they kind of are, I think they want to encourage players to want to almost kind of create, like I mentioned earlier, create your own story to a certain extent within kind of this overarching narrative that they have in there. And again, the overarching narrative, at least as far as we've gotten so far, I know that there are these other lords or whatever who, have bested other tarnished in combat, and that's why like that one boss like grafts on a bunch of like the bested adversaries, like he takes their arms or whatever and sticks, grafts them onto his body, and there's just kind of like this sense of grotesque. I don't even know what the word is, but like they've kind of lost themselves. They become like these dark souls unto themselves, completely enamored and taken with their own kind of dark narcissism and power and that sort of thing. And if that's as far as the overall arching narrative goes, that's one thing. But at the same time, like going through, like I think that they have done a tremendous job in it's like they create these buffers that are not impossible to get through or past, but like it's like this subtle kind of movement that they do through the game design of the open world where like, yeah, if you want to go to like probably the part of the map where like the end boss of all end bosses exists and that's where you beat the game, you can go there if you want. You're most likely not going to survive unless you're like an Elden Ring from software combat master, right? And even then it's going to take you forever to take out that boss because you're so weak. But the point is that even that notwithstanding, like you go through different parts of the world and it's like, oh wow, like the enemies in this particular area are definitely harder than the enemies that I was just at. Now you have to, as the player, figure out, okay, can I roll with these guys or are they too strong and I need to come back later? And I think that's where the magic is like I'll hit certain points in the game where I almost kind of get these like tunnel vision situations where I see like a certain boss or I'll see like an enemy class and I'll get killed by them. And so then I want to just try again and try again and try again. And I'll start feel somewhat frustrated by it. But at the same time, there will be a moment where like I kind of pause myself and I go, wait a minute, I'm banging my head up against this particular baddie. I'll just go somewhere else. I'll check out something else. And like, there has never been, at least in my 25 hours or so of playthrough, where like I was ever kind of like at a point where like I couldn't do anything else. There's always something to do. There's always a place to go or whatever, but you have to kind of train and condition your mind to think that way where it's like, I'm clearly not making any progress at this spot. It's fine. There's a point of grace. I can fast travel back there again if I need to. I'm going to go over here now and check out what's going on. And as a result, like I have several bosses like that dragon, for instance, in that like kind of marshy area. I've never defeated that dragon. I've died so many times, but it's all good because like I'll fight him for a bit and see if I can best him. If I don't, it's like, okay, that's cool. Then I'll go over to like the knight on the bridge, for instance. And like, recently there was an instance where I actually took him out. So I'm like, yes. And you get to move on from there. I also wanted to talk. So I do have another critique about the game. And I want to be certain that you've also had this experience because you've had more playtime than I have. The thing is I've noticed that if you interact with a door or an object, basically something that causes like a little notification to appear at the bottom of the screen that has text on there, like describes like, oh, the door only opens from the other side or whatever it is. I've noticed, okay, sometimes I get jumped Like as I'm doing that, I think it's all clear, and then all of a sudden like some enemies will jump me, like literally like start slashing at me and stuff like that from behind or whatever, and I'll turn around to engage, and I can't do anything. Like I try and dodge, the dodge button doesn't work. I try to attack, the attack button doesn't respond, and they end up killing me. And I'm like, what the heck happened? What is going on? This game never has had this type of issue. I discovered that you have to press the Y button to close the notification at the bottom of the screen in order to re-enable all of the other buttons on the controller. This needs to be fixed yesterday because every other experience I've had within the game, it's been fair. Like the combat is fair. Like I have been punished. Like you will not believe, or maybe you do because you're playing along too. But like I've never felt cheated necessarily by the battles I've had. However, this instance, this is actually a bug that needs to be fixed within the game because if they're going to have enemies that are going to come out and try and take me on while a notification's on screen, either that notification should automatically go away, or I should have full range of my combat skills with a notification still on screen that's at the bottom. It's not like the game pauses, or that's another option. Have the game pause until after I have dismissed that notification overlay that appears, because that is extremely frustrating when like you've made some progress, you haven't gotten to like another point of grace yet, and then you have to start over from the last point of grace that you're at. Have you had that happen to you?
I have had that happen every once in a while where I can still move, like I can still run around, but I can't swing, I can't dodge, I can't block. So all like the defense mechanisms are gone. I can just basically walk around. Yeah. So yes, I have had that.
Pivoting away from that.
Oh,
I did want to share with you something that will help you out as well as all of the players who are playing this game who are kind of more toward the beginning of the game like I am. If you go east, like again, it's that kind of reddish area. It doesn't look very charming. In fact, it looks way more dreadful and threatening than other parts I've been to. I found myself just being curious and going, I'm just going to go over here and see what's going on. I suddenly came across certain parts where like I would see like, some of those like, I don't know what you call them, but they're almost like stone fences from like the medieval days where like, it's not a fence, but like, it's like a bunch of stones that have been like layered on top of each other, and they kind of like go along like the main path or whatever. And they just kind of act as like I don't know, it's maybe a better way of saying it would be like, or actually a better way of describing it. Like when you're on the freeway and they have those big concrete dividers or barriers,
like a concrete guardrail.
Kind of, yeah, like that. Only the medieval version is like a bunch of stones that have been stacked on top of each other, that sort of thing. Anyway, you would know what I'm talking about if you saw it. Sure, Russ. Anyway, I came across some that were like not necessarily on fire, but like had been, like you could tell like a while ago had been on fire. So now that's like still kind of glowing with embers and stuff. Yeah, smoldering. Thank you, Steve. That's a good word. Smoldering. Yeah. I know you give a good smolder expression, Steve.
Smoldering Steve.
Exactly. Smoldering Steve. Anyway, I suddenly realized, I'm in dragon territory. And it's not just one dragon, but like I started seeing a second dragon and a third dragon and a fourth. And I'm like, whoa, there are quite a few dragons that are around here. And then I came across the white dragon. Have you seen the white dragon, Steve?
Is that a dragon that's kind of dying there? It's kind of laying around. You can't get up.
Yeah.
Just like,
The thing is, I don't even know how big it is. Like I was looking at that and it dwarfed all the other like baby-esque or like teenager dragons or whatever.
Yeah, the juvenile dragons.
Yeah, the juvenile dragons, yeah. And I gotta say, it was fantastic because the thing doesn't fight back. Like I snuck up on it and I was able to start hacking away, and it roared, and I was like, oh crap, now all the other dragons are gonna come take me out, but they never did. And it took me a while, but I eventually whittled it down. It gave me 74,000 runes.
Yeah, I think that depends on your level, Russ. Because I just defeated that and I only got 50,000 runes.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Interesting.
But a friend of mine did it, and he said he got like, I think also 70,000 runes or 80,000 runes or something like that. So I think it depends on your level. And then once you just get tired of hacking and slashing that thing, or it finally gives up the ghost, the fire ghost, then it gives you some sort of runes. But yeah, I was surprised I didn't get that many. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, if I battle it out, I mean, I hope I better get rewarded. At that guy, I was like, man, there's like 5 or 6 of these juvenile dragons everywhere. How am I going to defeat all these things? And then I just kind of got behind his wing and then behind his leg, and then the juvenile dragons like just went, we can't see him anymore. Yeah, he's around there somewhere. We'll figure it out. And so I just kept on whittling around on that ankle and that thigh. And just kept on hitting him, and then he was dead, and that was it. I was like, oh.
Wasn't that like, I mean, such a visual spectacle though. I mean, even without it flying around and doing everything else, I was taken by kind of the majesty of the visual setup of that. I was just like, wow, that is super cool. And that is the one time where I all of a sudden got 74,000 runes. So then I was able to actually apply some leveling up to various attributes that I have, which is great because I haven't done any farming yet. And I know you were telling me about some other location where like if you go to, you can take out a certain enemy class and they actually give you a lot of runes or something, right?
Yeah, so basically where I found is, I'm sure other people have found it too, but in Limgrave, where you go through the castle, just like beginning of the game, and then you find the little shack on the right, if you kind of just keep on arcing around and don't go back down that path, that initial path that you walked up through.
Wait, which path again?
When you walk up through the storm gate in Limgrave. So you kind of arc to the right. There's an area there where there's like 5 trolls walking around.
Are you talking about the giants?
I think they're trolls, but yeah, they're giants. They are giants.
Giant trolls.
Giant trolls. Just like the one that falls down in that one area. There's like 5 of them.
Yeah, I know the area.
And so they
all. So you go to the right?
Correct.
You go east?
Correct. Or you just basically kind of just do a loop. You get up through that path and it goes up and you kind of arc back around, circle back around. And there's 5 of them there. They're just kind of wandering around and you get all their attention like you ride by it and you go, hey.
Yeah, slap them on the rump.
Slap them on the rump. And they're like, and so then they all start like coming after you and they do so much area damage. All you got to do is kind of just stay close, but go in circles and avoid them, and they'll eventually just kill each other.
The giant trolls?
Yes. There'll be like one left, but he'll have like either most of his life, half his life, or like no life left, and you just go, and then he just dies.
But don't those only give you like 1,000 runes each?
Yeah.
I thought there was another section that like you had like found a point of grace too, and you were able to fast travel to, and like apparently like they gave like really generous amounts of runes, but like you have to be on your guard because they're tough, or they're kind of tough.
This has been the best spot because there's a grace point that's around there, and so you can go there, just wander around for a few minutes. They all kill each other, and then you go back to the grace point, come back, and they all do the same thing. At least in the beginning,
because you just respawn them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's a quick way to build up or add on to the rune amount that you already have. And so that's what I'll do is if I have 3,000 runes or 10,000 runes or 13, 15, and I'm like, I don't want to keep continuing the game. I'd rather just go back and farm a little bit, level up so that I have like 800 or in somewhere between like, 100 and 800. Where I'm okay. It's not the end of the world if I die and lose them, right? But I've already upgraded, and then I'll continue the game.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Steve.
You're welcome.
To wrap up this particular topic, tell us just some final thoughts on. Well, obviously, you're still playing through the game. You haven't beaten the game.
I haven't beaten it.
But until we actually do beat the game and talk about it a bit more, do you have any final thoughts on this, Steve?
I would say the final thought I would have, because I know we're kind of running out of time. One thing I haven't really said is a small little criticism, really. The people you interact with that are not the enemies, the only people that are kind to you.
Yes.
In the game, I'm surprised on how very
calm they are.
Well, not necessarily calm. Well, yes, calm, but like very low detail they are.
Oh.
Like you would walk up to them, and some of them, like, you can't even tell their face is even moving while they're speaking or expressing. They're just
That's true. Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? I got a mask on. I can see you. You know, but I kind of thought, okay, I'm supposed to interact with these people to find out the story if there's no cutscene, and yet they're the most basic things in this beautiful game. Like the scenery is beautiful. The environments are beautiful.
Yeah.
The enemies are spectacular. And then you have these NPCs that you must speak with to either get something from or discover the story or a quest line. And they don't look next gen like whatsoever.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a fair point, because I've noticed that as well. And that, yeah, we'll stick that with some of the other critiques that we've had regarding the game. But again, those types of critiques are few and far between. But I'm sorry, continue, Steve.
So, but anyhow, no, I guess, to wrap up, I would say so far this year it's probably my favorite game that I've played.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, so I would say towards the end of the year when we have our list, this will most likely be part of it.
Oh, nice. Well, welcome to From Software Experience, Steve. It's really funny for me in the sense that I never thought I would pick up another From Software title again, because as I've already mentioned, Sekiro almost gave me a heart attack. But yet here I am, and I'm happy to be here. I think it's fantastic. I share your sentiment. I think this is easily one of the best games of the year that we have seen so far. One of the telltale signs I have for that is when I finally get done with my work for the day, and I decide, what game do I want to play? That game is what calls me out the strongest. Out of all the new games that I have yet to beat or play or whatever, I constantly go back to that game. And that is also part of the secret sauce of titles that are some of the best games of the year, regardless of what year it is that when you feel compelled to, make way in your gaming library for that particular title and continue to play it, there's something definitely to that. And I think in this instance, I'm so glad that I decided to give Elden Ring a try, because the world truly is, like it's such a departure from what I have played and seen from previous From Software titles. If I'm not mistaken, this is kind of their first real attempt at an open world game, and they've really outdone themselves. It is tremendous. When you think of the sheer scale of this world and how amazing it looks, how well laid out the game design is. And honestly, I was thinking about this too, about how there are multiple different classes of characters. You're the vagabond, I'm playing as a confessor. There's a bandit class, a thief class, arcane class. There's many that I can't think off the top of my head. However, what I can say is that as I'm going through the open world, there have been so many instances where different sections, I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh my gosh, if I was the archer class, I would have such an easier time in this particular section. Or there would be another section where it's oh my gosh, I could totally tell that me as the confessor class excels within this particular pocket, right? And I think that is such a cool thing, because that introduces replayability. The game creators want you to actually not just play through the game with one character class. They really do want you to create multiple characters and go through the game again and be able to experience what it's like to engage in combat with all these enemy types and stuff under these different types of attributes and strengths and weaknesses and stuff. That is tremendous in a game like this, where I think someone like you and I could easily spend 150 to 200 hours in a single playthrough. And yet, you have, it's almost like you're leaving money on the table in a way, if you think about how, if you don't try out these other classes, it's just my goodness, you're not trying the whole entire game. So hats off to them for that, because it's definitely not throwaway. There's a lot of thoughtfulness that's going on in that. And I, for one, am definitely looking forward to being able to slowly but surely make my way through the game. And I think I'm going to be dying a whole lot more, and that's perfectly fine. I expect that.
As long as you keep coming back.
Oh, I will. I will keep coming back indeed. That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm, where you can enjoy exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it financially helps us doing Joygasm. Also, make sure you obliterate that subscribe button and make that notification bell beg for mercy. That way you will not miss a single solitary episode of Joygasm, which drops once a week every week. And while you're at it, do a search for @JoygasmTV on your favorite social media platform of choice. We're on just about all of them. You can see behind the scenes photos and all kinds of whimsical nonsense going on in some of the videos and that sort of thing. Last but not least, do a search for Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We are going to be looking forward to rounding up all of you again next week when we talk about Moon Knight on Disney Plus. We'll see you then.